Welcome back to Network Africa. Now, as you already know, this year's edition of the AU Summit has come to an end, and African leaders called for renewed focus on gender equality and inclusive growth. The theme of this year's summit was the Year of Women Empowerment and Development, where discussions on the realization of full rights and opportunities for women on the continent were discussed. Now, despite enactment of laws and policies that advance parity, African women are still held back by entrenched patriarchy and retrogressive cultural practices.
On the rights of women, the Maputo Protocol.
Women have just labored. Women have injured themselves with this whole bending their backs, sometimes with their children, getting hurt, getting cut and injured by those holes. Sometimes they break. Women who work from sunup until sundown in the fields with this rudimentary instrument that is so difficult for them. I think it's a long overdue. Access to land in too many of our countries, women don't have, because sometimes they have to get their husband's permission. Sometimes there are no land laws that would allow women to own land. Most times land is what they use for collateral to get finances from the bank. So the lack of land means the lack of access to finances. The lack of access to finances means you're constrained in all your development. What are you promoting? What are you building a house? What are you trying to expand your business? So that's a big handicap.
Well, the former UN Deputy Secretary General is certainly one woman who is pushing for the empowerment of women, as she plans to make history by joining the race to be the Tanzanian ruling party's presidential candidate, setting her sights on becoming the country's first female president. Asha Rose Migiro joins more than 30 other candidates from the ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi party, that's CCM, and numbers have been swelled from the usual dozen or so by the perception that President Jakaya Kikwete standing down leaves a more open field. The presidential aspirant has huge experience under her belt, as she's been the deputy UN chief since the year 2007 and is also seen as one of President Kikwete's closest allies. President Kikwete, who is standing down this year after a maximum of 2 terms, said in a statement just yesterday that he has not picked a successor, and the unprecedented number of CCM presidential candidates was a sign of democracy. Now to other matters. You will recall that one of the issues which we've taken interest in right here on Network Africa is the challenges which albinos face, and that includes discrimination and also being killed for purposes of witchcraft, which is the case in not only some parts of Nigeria, but in Tanzania as well. You'll also recall that earlier this year, an albino baby in Tanzania was kidnapped and then found with his limbs missing in a gutter. And it was after that incident occurred that similar ones took place in the country, prompting the Tanzania government to declare war on the witch doctors who often carry out such atrocities, as well as those who aid them. The government is living up to expectation, and police have arrested a 44-year-old man accused of trying to sell his albino niece to undercover security officials posing as witch doctors as part of a nationwide crackdown on the illegal trade in albino body parts used in black magic. A police spokesman from Tanzania's Western Tabora region said Margaret Kamis, who was 6 years old, was abducted a couple of nights ago from Kona, that's a village in Nzega district, where she lives with her mother and her 3 siblings. Mwandu, who's a widow, was attacked by a gang, and they were covering their faces when they broke into her house, snatched her daughter, and ran into the bush, triggering a manhunt by the fellow villagers. Thankfully, the girl in question was rescued, and that led to the arrest of her uncle, who is believed to be the one behind the plot. Now, based on the surge in rape in Kenya, particularly in slums, more than 200 elderly women aged up to 105 are learning self-defense to protect themselves from rape, which is widespread in Kenya. Now, research by the charity Ujama, which runs the self-defense program, shows that 1 in 4 women do participate in these exercises. It is known as the Kukus, and it has actually, the rate of participation has actually risen back from the time when it was established in 2012, and 2 classes were taking place at that time, but now the number of classes has risen up to 7. That's based on the increase in rape in the East African country.